update to a crash we told you about yesterday involving several vehicles, including a police cruiser. Several people were injured, including an officer. Winslow police say Waterville police officer Jake Whitley and 2 other drivers were injured after a crash at the intersection of Kennedy Memorial Drive and Cool Street. They say Whitley was responding to a call with lights and sirens on when an SUV turned onto the intersection and he hit the vehicle. The SUV then slid into a truck, stopped at a traffic light, and then the truck crashed into a car behind it. The driver of the SUV had to be extricated and taken to the hospital. And their condition is unknown at this time, but police say none of the injuries were life-threatening. Whitley suffered a cut on his head and was treated and released.